Hello, in this podcast we are going to be looking at how to prepare for the Living Environment Regents exam. And we'll start off with hearing how some of the top students in your grade study for their tests.
I study for tests by looking at my review sheets, going over my notes, looking at the review sheet that you picked out for us, and looking in this Let's Review Biology Living Environment book.
Okay, I somewhat do the same thing, but somewhat differently. Like, I will also go over my worksheets, and while I'm in class, I will have the teacher check over them to make sure they're correct. So when I go home, I'll be studying the right thing. And then the practice test, since they have all the answers, I will do my answers myself, see what I know, and then afterwards, I will check it and see if I'm correct. Most of the time, I'm correct, so that's a good thing. And then I also use like flashcards because I suck at vocabulary, so my flashcards also help me because they have the words and they have the definition on the back. So that helps me.
I study for certain tests by studying right before the test, so I remember everything, but that's not really a good thing to do. So basically how I study over a long period of time, looking over worksheets, reading the podcast, and all of that stuff, and also looking online textbooks. Yeah.
And sometimes, when you give us the worksheets to do in class, sometimes I take an extra worksheet and I look at it to see if I can do it by myself. And then when I finish, I flip off the answer key and I see which ones I got right and which ones I got wrong to see my results.
All the times, if there's words that are coming up that I don't know, I just write it down, and the next day I ask the teacher so I could know. So when another question comes up with that thing where I would understand.
The podcasts, they help too because they tell you all the information that you need to know for the upcoming test. If we having a test on the reproduction system, you can watch all the podcasts for everything in that topic, and that tells you everything you need to know, all the things that's going to be on the test. So that's good too.
And also, you should buy this Let's Review Living Environment book because it actually really helps you, because it helped me. And then it also includes 2 actual Regents exams that will help you learn and everything. So you should buy it.
And another great thing about the podcast, if the teacher says something in class and you missed it, it's not like it could be rewind and then get it. So with the podcast, you just click rewind and then you could watch everything over again.
If we're in class listening to Mr. Hilbert talk and he catches something that he's trying to explain and we don't understand it, and you're like, what are you talking about? See, during watching the podcast, you can go rewind.
Here's another method you can use. This is called the quiz and recall method. And some students who consistently get A's on tests have used this. But keep in mind that the students who just spoke to you also have consistently gotten A's on tests too. So there's more than one way to do this. Pick whichever way works best for you. So in the quiz and recall method, you first take all of your notes and you group them into big ideas. Like one big idea could be natural selection, and then you write a question for each big idea. Like the question for natural selection could be, how does natural selection explain how bacteria becomes resistant to antibiotics? And then for each question, you would lecture out loud to an imaginary class, or if you can find someone to lecture to, if you have a study partner for this, you could lecture out loud the main points of this big idea without looking at your notes. If you are successful at this, then move on, and if not, mark it with a check. And after each time you go through all of these, take a break, and then focus on those areas with the checks, and the ones where you didn't put a check, you already know it, so you don't focus on that. Now, one thing that you should definitely do, and one thing and also some of the students mentioned before, is you got to do the Regents questions. It's getting to the Regents is the same way to get to the Apollo Theater. Practice, practice, practice. Places you can go. The website you see there is a place you can go to see interactive Regents exams. And here's the website where you can see the interactive Regents exams. And here you'll find all these different ones and you can use this for your other courses too. And here's the one for the Living Environment, and this goes from the one that we just had this past January all the way down to 2003. So you just click on here, here's August 2005, and Here's the full Regents exam, and you just put your answers in here. I can't right now because I didn't sign in. You just put in your response, and it should tell you if you're right or wrong. You've got the entire Regents here. This also has at the end of it, you've got the whole answer key. Like here's the answers for all the multiple choice, and over here the answer for the non-multiple choice. Another place to look are the Barron's review books. Here is the one that I recommend, the Let's Review Biology, the Living Environment. There's another one with the red cover, and the reason why I recommend this particular one is because, as opposed to the one with the red cover, is this one has everything that's in the red cover. The red cover, you've got a series of Regents exams. It explains why the right answers are right, why the wrong answers are wrong. But it's just the Regents exams. This particular one explains why the right answers are right and why the wrong answers are wrong. But it also tells you all the information that you need to know. Like if you don't understand evolution, you go through there and it tells you everything you need to know about evolution. When you're going through the Regents questions, don't neglect the non-multiple choice when you're doing this. I've seen a lot of students do this. They just go through the multiple choice and they skip the non-multiple choice. You've got to practice it. This is one of the main reasons why I've put in that 10-point bonus in the test. I want you to practice doing that, because if you skip those non-multiple choices, then that's just going to seriously bring down your grade. If you skip a lot of them, if you skip all of them, you will fail. There's a lot of review sheets, and if you see the website down here, if you type that into your browser, you can download a zip file which has many different review sheets. It has review sheets for all of the 4 state labs. It has lots of things that can help you. It has in one file the review sheets that I've been giving you before each test, both filled in and not filled in. Now we come to the different parts of the Regents exam. Part A are questions on content, and this tests your knowledge of biology. There are always 30 multiple choice questions. Do not leave any of them blank. If you get a wrong answer, if you leave it blank, it's the same points off. Just make sure that if you do guess, do your best to eliminate the wrong choices first, because each one you eliminate, it increases the chances of you getting it right. Also, it's very important for you to read the entire question. Like if you look at this question right here, it's important to read the whole thing. It's important to read the beginning of it, because the beginning of it tells you about what the diagram is. And a lot of students just go right to the question and also read each of the parts, because, like it says, the structures of the immune system are represented by, and if you put down A only, well, A is a part of the immune system. It's just not the whole thing. It's A and C only. So it's important to look at each answer, because some of the answers may be partially correct, and you want to find one that's the best answer. Part B are skill questions, and skill questions test your skill. And there are 2 parts to Part B. Part B1 are 12 multiple choice questions, and those will be going on the Scantron. Oh, and one thing I had to say about the Scantron, this is really important. When you're doing your Scantron, if you have to make a change, this is for Part A, Part B1. When you're doing your Scantron, if you have to make a change, make sure that you erase it completely. And do not leave any stray marks with your pencil out on the Scantron, because we cannot check it over again. If you have a partial erasure, and that when you erased it, you didn't erase the whole. That means when you erased it and changed your answer, you didn't erase the whole thing. And then the machine picks it up as 2 answers, and it's going to throw out your answer to that question. And even if you changed it to the right answer, it's going to mark it wrong. So if you make your change, make sure that you erase it completely, and don't put any stray marks on. Make sure that your pencil only touches the Scantron when you're writing your answer down. I've seen Scantrons where students have a lot of stray marks, and if that stray mark goes just goes through one of the circles where you bubble it in, the machine is going to pick it up, and it's going to pick it up, and it's going to say there are two answers here, and it's going to throw the whole thing out. And we can, according to the state regulations, we cannot go through and change your answer to what you really put it down. Okay, now getting back to Part B. So we've got the multiple choice and the Scantron. Part B2 are mostly non-multiple choice. There are few multiple choice. Those don't go in the Scantron. You just write down your answer on the answer sheet, and there's always a graph. And for these, you got to read the entire question like before and follow the directions. And for the non-multiple choice, there is no partial credit. It's right or it is wrong. Now we come to Part C, which are the questions on application. And this test to see if you can apply your knowledge. There's no multiple choice in these questions and no partial credit. Please don't skip these. I know that these are the hardest questions on the test, but it's also where people tend to lose the most points because they skip entire parts. And these questions have the essay questions. The essays have bullets. I'll show them to you in a moment. And treat each bullet as a short answer question, not a whole essay. There's no introduction, no conclusion. Just treat it. Now it's an essay question, but a series of short answer questions. Now here's a Part C question, and hit pause right now so you can read the whole question. Very important to read the whole question because you find stuff to help you answer the question within the reading. Okay, another important thing when it comes to answering these questions is something called double jeopardy. Like if you don't know an answer and you guess, if the second question is based on your answer to the first, then we have to relook at this. I'll show you in a moment with this. Now you notice over here that question 58 has 3 bullets. You see there's a number, see that 1? That 1 tells you how many points that question is worth. Sometimes it will be a 1, sometimes it will be a 2. And that tells you if there's a 1, that means asking for one thing. If it's a 2, it's asking for 2 things. Each multiple choice question is worth 1 point, and each one of these is worth 1 point. So if you skip this question entirely, it's like skipping 3 multiple choice questions. Please don't skip them. First one, it says, identify the major problem that may occur when tissues and organs donated by another individual are used. I want to show you something when you're doing this, when you're checking your work. You have this available to you. Don't just have the questions, you also have the answers. So here's the answer key, and just to show you, this right here is a very important thing. Acceptable responses include but are not limited to. That means the answer that we see there, rejection of tissues and organs, is the answer that they suggest. If you put down an answer that still is a good answer, we can accept it. It could be a different answer. So rejection of tissues and organs are good. If we go back here, now you could put down something else. Let's say you put down something like complications due to surgery. That would be something that I would have to talk over with people to see if that's correct, because that is a major problem. There can be many complications due to surgery. I probably would not give credit for it because it doesn't have anything specifically to do with it being with another individual or to do with stem cells. Okay, so that's one essay question, and there are several essay questions. The next one here, we have another essay question, this time with 3, and then we have a series of short answer questions based on a reading. So please, once again, main thing is please don't skip any and practice these questions. Don't give these problems short shrift. Like if you look over here, this question here, 2 correct answers. Go further down here. This bullet here, look, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 possible correct answers. So it's not like a multiple choice where it's right or it's wrong. And actually with the multiple choice, they know what possible wrong answers are. So you may think you've got the right answer when it's getting you with the misconception. So in some ways, multiple choice can be harder than these. So please don't skip any questions on Part C or in Part B or over here on Part D. Now here are my notes for Part D. Part D is, in a sense, one of the more important parts, because it's based on 4 state labs, and you got to know this area cold because it's 15% of the test, and it's based on only a small amount of material. It's based on the 4 state labs: making connections, diffusion, biodiversity, and beaks of finches. And if you go back to an earlier point on this podcast, there you'll find a link where you can download a whole bunch of review sheets, and in that zip file you'll find a review sheet for each of the 4 state labs. It goes over what was done in the lab, it goes over the analysis for the lab, you'll find some Regents questions, and you'll find the answers for those Regents questions. So you got to know this cold because it's an easier thing to study for, because it's a small area and it covers a lot. And right here we have the diagram that was in the Beaks of Finches lab, and this diagram has been on more Regents exams than any other diagram. So you really have to know this thing cold. And basically just use this as a pie chart. Each type of finch here, it's a slice of the pie. So the questions on the lab are they are questions on on what was done in the lab, techniques. So you have to know what was done in each of the labs. What did you do? You have to know the theory behind what was done in those labs. You need to know evolution. You need to know genetics. You need to know about diffusion. You need to know evolution. You also need to be able to do the same type of analysis that was done in the lab. You need to be able to look at a gel electrophoresis and be able to say that these 2 species are more closely related than these other species. Now we're at the concluding questions. Number 1, how will you prepare for the Regents exam? And this is not something, this is different from the other questions in that I don't want you to just simply go back and repeat what was said in there. I want you to put down how you are deciding right now to prepare for the Regents exam. Number 2, if you haven't already, download that zip file. What's the title of just one of those review sheets? Number 3, what type of questions can you expect in each of the 4 parts of the Regents? That concludes this podcast, and I wish you fruitful studying for the Regents exam, and I hope you do really well on the Regents.